How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Sidelined. I'm Brooke Fletcher. That's my girl, Dani K. Dani, you're staying busy. It's in the middle of tennis season. You're about to leave to go to Europe.
Yeah, I just got back at Monday from Miami, Monday at 3 a.m. And now I leave Friday at 3 p.m. to go to Monte Carlo. So I'm pretty excited about that. There's some assignments in life that are way better than others, and this one is definitely one of them. It's a smaller work day over there because it's just a men's tournament, not a men's and women's tournament. So I can't wait.
Can you tell me what you do in your downtime when you said it's a smaller venue? What do you do in Monaco?
I go to dinner by myself a lot. I know that sounds not that glamorous, but I always try and pick like really cool restaurants or something with a view, somewhere where I can people watch, because nobody just wants to stare at like in a restaurant and just stare at people. So I like to like watch people walking by. I try to choose restaurants where I could be like visually stimulated a little bit by looking out and about, because I'm 9.5 times out of 10, I'm by myself. But I will say I'm going to Monaco a day early this year, which I did last year and really enjoyed it because I could get there on Saturday, start to get adjusted to the time change and go to work on Monday. So actually on Sunday this year, I booked a spa day. So
good for you.
I am going to go get a massage and sit on a terrace and overlook some boats and enjoy myself and pretend it's a one-day vacation.
At some point, I want to do something where we get the tips and tricks of covering things out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people don't think about like the adapters you have to bring. And I know we're girly now. Like we have our curling irons, we have our blow dryers. Like do you have to get special kinds when you travel abroad?
Yeah. It's funny. I have 2 coming to my house right now because they start to break really easily. I think converters like break down very, very easily. Mine only last like a year or 2. I don't know if that's just because I'm plugging so much crap into one of them. Probably that's what's happening. But I typically bring like 2 converters. And then I just recently got, this is going to sound silly, but it's like an extension cord converter. So like it goes into the European outlets and then, it like across the whole room. So like I can like blow dry my hair from my bed if I want to, or I can like plug something in from afar. And I feel like that's a really nifty little tool. So I'm happy that I did that.
That's so smart because I feel like the cords are never long enough.
I also have a European hairdryer, European straightener, and a European curling iron.
Is that your cat?
It's my cat. Why does he do that? Benjamin, go away.
I just saw the little whiskers
go across the screen. Unbelievable. This guy just wants to be a viral kitty.
He's a star. That's what he is. He's a superstar.
Oh my God.
He's like, did somebody? No, you know what he said? He's like, wait, you're leaving me?
Literally. I have to close the door where I pack my suitcase because he'll just sit in it.
Oh,
I know.
That's so hard. That's like, I mean, cats are a little bit more independent, but I'm really wanting a dog. And when you're traveling so much with our jobs, it's like, I would feel so guilty leaving a dog at home. Now a cat is probably like, I'm fine. Like
they're pretty self-sufficient. And technically, if we're being realistic, he is my sister's cat. So it's really her responsibility, but I get the snuggling factor. So I do think he misses me. Obviously lives with us. So I see him a lot, especially during the day, but it's pretty funny how he needs attention at all times. It goes back to that black cat theory that you gave me the other day, Brooke. I told you that he is literally defying that theory at all times.
Did you look into it?
I did. I actually brought it up. It ended up being like a big topic of a girls' dinner the other day too. So everybody agreed with you, but I think my black cat must be a bit of an outlier, but it is pretty funny. Then we started listing people that we thought had golden retriever versus black cat energy. So it became a good topic. It was a good thing to know. I appreciate you keeping me up to date.
I do what I can.
But you have been quite busy opening day and you're officially into the swing of baseball season.
Yeah.
That's got to be wild. How was opening day for you?
I mean, opening day is always awesome. This was my first opening day as like the main reporter and, just trying to get in the swing of things. And I feel like it's always just so chaotic. There's so many media members there. There's just all the bells and whistles. Like we had a car parade, which is like one of the traditions for the White Sox. So, it was funny. I'm in the back of a car with Jonathan Cannon and I'm like interviewing him. And, there's like so much
in the middle of a parade.
So they do like a parade and every player rides in the back of a car. But it was funny because they had like these Jeeps and, these normal type cars. And then Jonathan and Jonathan's like he's like well over 6 feet. And we're in the back of this convertible. We're just like squeezed in there. I'm just interviewing him, but we had some technical issues. So this is, Dani, this happens all the time. Our audio wasn't working. And so my producer is having to call me and he's like, hey, Brooke, you're on camera. And so he calls me, lets me know. And then I put the phone down and then I'm just going rogue. I can't hear my producer. I'm like, I'm just going to stop when this feels natural. We were overcoming and putting out fires left and right, but that's showbiz, baby.
That's part of it.
Goes.
But that's when you need a professional in those scenarios, because I don't know if you get frustrated by this, but a lot of people are hiring influencers for reporting roles. And these are the types of moments that I feel like it can be a little bit dicey when you're not trained in understanding how to carry a broadcast when chaos is happening around you. Those types of moments is when you need a professional.
Oh, for sure. And then it helps, and then even with our camera guy, I was like, all right, well, the camera guy can at least point to me when I'm on camera, and then he can go like this when we're ready to wrap. And so there were a few instances because it's tricky because we're adding, our pre and post at the stadium now. And, with frequencies, and this is where we're probably getting over some viewers' heads here, but you're sharing some frequencies with cell phone towers and all this stuff, and you're competing, and it just can lead to a lot of audio issues. But anyways, we've straightened them out. It's chaos. That's what happens during the season. You just gotta get through it.
Chaos of opening day sounds insane because obviously I've worked in the NFL, so I got a kind of a gist, but baseball's different. I feel like when it comes to opening day, and it's very specific to each team, and it's not only like hellos to people you haven't seen in a while. Fans are all there. You have to say hi to people. The fact that fans are just learning you for the first time. This is the first time you've been in front of all these fans. So you're kind of on even when you're not on camera. You kind of have to be on in terms of your personality and getting people to love CHSN and getting people to love the White Sox. And you're kind of like a brand ambassador even while you're not actually physically on air. So I'm sure that your day started way before you were actually needing to do broadcast duties.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of press that goes with it too. We're in one of the biggest sports markets in the country. And so I was thankful to, to do some press stuff before, but my day started at, I woke up at 6:30 and then I did, an interview at 8 in the morning with WGN. And then, you're just getting ready. It's a whole day thing, but going back to just like being on all the time, you're kind of an ambassador. I'm just thankful that I had spring training to just kind of build those relationships with the guys and just build some familiarity with, the beat writers and the people within the franchise. But when you're there at the ballpark, first off, it still feels like the first day of school because I have no idea where I'm going. And if anybody, you probably felt this way when you were covering the NFL, like in the tunnels, I'm terrible at directions and I'm trying to find my way around. Just give me to the ball, just give me to the field. That's all. And then I'll work my way around
the
that.
Field even? We don't even know. Where's the dugout?
I know. And I'm wandering around. I'm like, going in random doors. And they're like, ma'am, are you lost? I go, yes. I work here. I'm the new Sidelined reporter. Hi, nice to meet you. And they're like, okay. But everybody was so kind. So you're trying to figure that out. You're also, trying to meet all the fans, and you're trying to meet people, within the organization while you're also trying to do your job. And the first game back, it's like we're integrating yourself. You're trying to get back in the swing of things and get used to, doing the reports and getting back in the flow. So that was an obstacle in itself. And then you throw in some technical stuff, and then it's just like mentally taxing. And by the end of the day, you're exhausted.
Yeah, it's kind of like I always liken it to like feeling as though you ran a marathon after a day of broadcasting. If it's a full day, it's different when you host a show. You're going into a studio. You're not interacting with that many people. It's a little bit different environment than when you're out on the road. I was trying to explain this to my new boyfriend because he came to Miami for a couple days and got to see sort of my world, which was very fun to show him. But it also showed him that I don't do that much when it comes, because you're only on camera a couple times in a day. And as the
Yeah.
tournament shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, there's only like 1 or 2 matches a day. But the part that they don't see is when everyone's still there and you're having to chat to every single person, checking in on their day, how's their family, you're on at all times. And that's a lot. Like, I got back from this trip, I must have become the most laziest person on the planet. I've been home for 3 days. I've had groceries delivered twice. Have I been doing anything during the day? No.
Best.
The grocery store's in walking distance. I literally had
No shame.
CVS deliver me blush because God forbid I get up and go to CVS. Am I doing anything once again? No. I'm just sitting on the couch.
Yeah. Well, and don't you feel, because I wonder, I was like, man, as I've gotten older, I feel like, why is it so hard to just pick up the phone and like call people now, and just catch up on relationships? Not to say, and I don't want to make it seem like it's a job, because I love, my friends, and I love my family, and I want to catch up with them. But I think because like your job is to talk all day and to be on, to your point, when you get home, it's just like you want your mind to just shut off, and you just want to just kind of be honestly, just want to just sit there.
It's wild because when I tell people that I don't have anything really to do all day, like I have free time during the day, even though I'm working technically on the clock, I am sitting there for a long time. And it's crazy the amount of text messages that go unanswered on my phone, which is bizarre. I'm going to be mad at myself over this. Like,
Yeah.
people will text me, I'm doing nothing. I clock it in my brain and I'll answer 4 days later. What am I doing in those 4 days? I have so much downtime. I probably posted on Instagram in those 4 days, but I don't answer the text message.
But
I
it's
don't know
mindless.
why.
It's mindless though. Like and you don't even think about it. Like that's me. I'll respond in my brain. I'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds great. Like, do you want to go to dinner on Saturday? Yes, I would love that. And I put my phone down, and then my friends will text me like, Brooke, hello. I'm like, oh, I thought I responded. And I'm like, yeah, let's go to dinner. But I don't know if it's like me getting older, or it's just like I'm more exhausted after, a long day on the job. I just am thankful that my friends don't take offense to it. And I'm sure your family and friends don't either, because it's not intentional.
It's totally not intentional. I love
No.
you guys. My brain power can only be put in so many places at once. Speaking of getting old, I'm going to go on a tangent really quickly. I went to the gym yesterday at 5:45 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, for no reason. My sister wants to go at 5:30. So when I'm home, I'm trying to also just go with her. Then I have the rest of the day to, once again, do nothing. And I immediately, first lift, I was an athlete. I lift all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't warm up, which was stupid. I got out of bed probably 10 minutes prior. I go to the gym. I do whatever their little F45 warm up is. I say it like that because it's not a real warm up. It's like, you're not sweating. You're not glistening. You should probably warm up more than that. And my first lift was a barbell over my shoulders doing good mornings, where you kind of like bend over and stand up. I bend over, stand up, and my back completely gives out, to the point where I think I went pale with shock, and I like dropped the barbell and like went to the ground. And Morgan, my sister, has never seen me do that before. So she's looking at me like, what do I do? Like, this is the very first exercise of 5:30 in the morning. What do we do? And I was down there thinking the same thing. I'm like, am I going to get up? Can I walk? Luckily, we're fine. It wasn't that dramatic. I mean, I am very sore. I've spent the last day and a half with a heating pad on my back, and we're stretching it out and all of that. But goodness gracious, that never happened to me when I was younger.
No, it's the worst. I inherited back problems from my dad. Like, I love him so much, but like, that's the one thing I'm like, really? You had to give that to me? Like, there was a time where I would take out the trash and I would throw my back out, and I would be out of commission for like 2 days. I'm like, Dad, I'm like 26. What's going on? And he's like, honey, you got to remind yourself to drink that water. And I'm terrible at drinking water. So I blame that. But then I swear, I saw a chiropractor here in Chicago, and Dani, he fixed all my back problems. I haven't had, knock on wood, I haven't had any back problems since. He's a wizard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to check him out. I
You
had
need to go
never
see your
had the
chiropractor.
interview, but I might need to go see one now that we're apparently getting up there in age. Shout out to the 30-year-olds, 34-year-olds. We're not that old, but for whatever reason, our bodies sometimes want to tell us we are.
45.
But Brooke, I kind of felt like this week it would be really fun to go through your journey, just how you got to where you're at,
Mhm.
a little bit more of the intimate details of like your life, what you have done to get to this point. And we can do one eventually on me, but I feel like it'd be really good to just focus in on you, get a good background so that if our viewers and listeners aren't necessarily super glued into how did Brooke Fletcher begin to get to where she's at, I think it'd be kind of fun to peel back the curtain a little bit. So
Cool.
if you're down, let's start with just where you grew up.
I'm an open book, Dani. So I grew up outside of Atlanta in a little town called Peachtree City, Georgia. It's a golf cart community. We call it the bubble because, you can just drive to, your local grocery store and everything on your little golf cart. So my mom is from Georgia. And so we decided to, grow up close to family. Community is important, especially when my dad was still playing baseball. When he's gone all the time, it's like you really cherish being close to family because my mom had 3 kids under the age of 5. And so, having that community there was huge for her. So I grew up around there and then I went to Auburn University.
Auburn University. How'd you choose Auburn?
So it's funny. I actually grew up huge UGA fans. My mom's side, everybody just big Georgia Bulldogs fans and alums. And my sister, who's 5 years older than me, she actually kind of decided to go out on a whim and go to Auburn. And we actually live closer to Auburn. And then my brother played baseball in college and he was deciding where he wanted to go. And so then he decided to go to Auburn. And so I think just growing up, going to his games and visiting my siblings, I just thought that was, that was the right move. But I will say I did try out for UGA and so I was on the wait list. So, there's like wait lists in college, and you have to see if you can get in. So you can still try out for the cheerleading squad on your wait list. And so they competed, which I loved. Like I grew up doing competitive all-star and all that stuff, competitive cheerleading. And so I made the cheerleading squad, but they wouldn't push my admissions to fall. I got in for spring semester. So there was like a whole thing. And I was stubborn and I was like, I'm not going to wait until spring. Like I want to cheer in the fall. And so I decided to go to Auburn, but it actually worked out perfectly. I wouldn't have chose it any differently.
Wait, we need to back up a little bit because I realized that once you get to Auburn, we're skipping your teens and you've had like a really interesting teenage life. So let's start with, when did cheerleading and pageants come into your world? Who taught you what a pageant was? When did you first see it? Why did you want to enter into beauty pageants?
My very first pageant was Miss Pride of Fayette County back when I was I think in kindergarten. And when I tell you it was like glitz galore, I mean, my hair was this big. I had this yellow dress on with the big shoulder pads. I mean, why they're putting full makeup on like a 6-year-old, I have no idea. But it was like a big thing in my hometown. Like, oh my gosh, if you're Miss Pride, like that's a big deal. And so everybody from school did it. And I think I got like first runner up my first year. And then it became a thing. Like I would do it every other year just for fun.
What do you do in these?
So what am I doing in
What
this?
do you do when you're 6 years old in a pageant?
So you just go out and, you just pose and you just walk out and do your thing. Okay. Have you seen it, Toddlers and Tiaras? Now, it was not that extreme. Okay. It was not that extreme. But have you seen Toddlers and Tiaras?
Yes.
Okay. But Miss Pride was just very much, you just had the dress and you would go out and you would they would read your bio, and that was at like a young age. And then, as it was just like a yearly thing. And as you got older, I won Miss Pride in high school. And so a family friend was like, oh, well, Brooke's kind of good at like pageants. I don't know what that means, but she's like, does she want to do like the Miss Georgia Teen USA system? And so my mom's like, sure. And I was like, yeah, why not? And at that point I was like very into drama. I loved performing growing up. Like there's home videos of me like dancing in the mirror and dancing like anytime I could find like somewhere to perform, I would put on shows in front of my family. So I was like, if this opens doors to, whatever, whether it was acting or something like that, like I'm all for it. And so that was kind of the thought process behind it, because the Miss Teen and the Miss USA system, that was huge. The Miss Universe organization when we grew up. Dani. Like, I don't know about you, but like, I feel like,
1,000,000%.
yeah.
There's that movie with Mona Driver, what's her name? Beautiful. And she like goes in and she has like a kid, and you're not supposed to have a
Yes.
kid when you're in
Yes.
beauty pageants. She goes and wins it. Like I could still cry. Minnie Driver? I have to look this up. It's called Beautiful. And I fell in love with it. You had Miss Congeniality growing up. I always watched Miss USA, and we'd pick our favorites, right? And we'd be bummed
Right.
if Miss Oregon didn't look exactly like we wanted Miss Oregon to look. And
Yeah.
we had a similar deal in Portland, where you had Rose City Princesses, and I was just in awe of them at all times. I always wanted to do it. I thought about doing it in high school. There was a couple complications with scheduling, so it wouldn't really make sense. But I always was so intrigued by being a princess, being in the beauty pageants, seeing these like women that were so elegant and pretty. I mean, that's really what it came down to back then. It wasn't about like what their job was. It was like, wow, look how pretty they are.
It was, I mean, and I know it's in the South, it's very competitive. And I don't want to speak for other areas in the country, but I know in the South, like it's huge, especially growing up. And so, but I will give like pageants a lot of credit, because in a sense of, it taught me a lot about myself, you know, getting over stage fright, getting up on stage at a young age and, you know, performing, like that's, you know, not a lot of like younger kids, you know, can have that confidence. And so it instills that. But the reason why I wanted to get into the USA system, I mean, Halle Berry was Miss USA, and, you know, Allie LaForce was Miss Teen USA. She's, you know, going on and having an incredible career. And there's a lot of broadcasters that were either Miss America or Miss USA. So I was thinking, like, if I can get in this system, like this is my end, this is, you know, a go. And so that's why I started doing some other pageants just to gain some confidence. And then I did the Miss Georgia Teen, and I won my first year, which I don't know how. When I tell you, Dani, I had no idea what I was doing.
Okay, so let's back up to that, because it's
Okay.
a slight flex, but you're so humble that you won't say it. Brooke, in her first year of ever doing Miss Teen Georgia, wins Miss Teen Georgia. Miss Georgia Teen, am I saying it incorrectly?
Miss Georgia Teen, yeah.
Miss Georgia Teen, Brooke Fletcher. All of us are not shocked by that. But let's go back to, how old were you?
Gosh, I was a sophomore maybe in high school, sophomore or junior in high school.
Okay, so you're going off and doing this pageant. What's it entail? So when you go in, what's like the stages of what happens?
So, you know, you go into this pageant and you do a swimsuit. Well, you do an opening number. You're doing a swimsuit, and then you do evening gown. So the Miss USA system doesn't have the talent portion, and then that's the Miss America system. So that's kind of the preparation that went into it. So I, you know, again, I mean, I was working out, I was doing, you know, multiple sports. And so that was, and then I think at a young age, your body is just like, you're just naturally active and you have a faster metabolism. So I was just working out, and that was that aspect. But yeah, I mean, Dani, you have to do your own hair and makeup. And I remember this was back then when like the poof was in style, like this.
Oh yeah.
Remember this?
The 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗀 style.
I had a full-on like meltdown backstage because I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't know how to do makeup. And so I'm like asking people, like, can you help me? And so I thought it was a good idea just to put a little bump it in my head and like this. And I was like, yeah, it was like full, when I tell you, it was full on like this, like it was awful. And I don't know how I won. I was like, were the judges okay? But thank you so much.
But thank you so much.
But thank you so much.
Wait, as a kid, that's gotta be hard. Do you not have, is there body issues when you're that young? I can imagine there probably is a little bit of comparison that goes on, even when you are so young, sophomore in high school, but still you're starting to be aware of other kids your age and seeing where you compare to them. What was that like?
Yeah, I you know, going into the Miss Georgia Teen USA pageant, I, you know, was in shape, but I wasn't as like locked in. And after I won, you know, preparing for Teen USA, I mean, I wanted it so bad. And it's literally another full-time job, because you're going to your sponsors up in Nashville. That's where all my sponsors were. So I was literally going to Nashville like every weekend. And I was doing a, you know, cheerleading practice. Then I was going to the All-Stars, and then I would go home and I would work out after that. I became almost obsessed because I think in pageants, it's not reality. Like, I think a lot of people, don't realize that, but like women just, and I guess it's within sports too, but you just become so obsessed with it, and you become obsessed with your eating. And it got to a point where I was like, I was counting calories, and it wasn't healthy. And I had like a really hard time adjusting after Teen USA because I didn't need to be on a diet. I didn't have really anything to work towards. And so I kind of like lost myself in a sense. And I kind of went through like a little bit of a depression in a way because, you work so hard at something and you want something so much. And then suddenly it's just kind of, over and done with.
So you're 15-ish years old. Let's just round it
Yeah.
to 15 because I think that's how old you are when you're a sophomore, 15, 16.
Yeah.
And counting calories, which I can imagine. I totally get that. I mean, you're standing there. I can remember not wanting to go to pool parties at that age because I was always bigger and broader than everybody and taller. And it doesn't matter what you're in. Women, we go through this even now, right? But I can't imagine going through it at 15 years old and understanding even what a calorie is. Just shows you that it's a little bit different system than normal.
Yeah, it is. And pageants, again, they're so great, but I think it's just you are working towards something for a whole year and you become obsessed with it. And I think I wanted it so bad to where I almost got body dysmorphia in a way. And I was like, if I have a bite of this brownie, like I'm going to gain weight, I was counting like gum calories. Like it was really unhealthy. And that was not on anybody like putting that on me. It was just, I just am really hard on myself in general. And, I probably got like a little too skinny, but
you were disciplined and you wanted a goal and you were going after your goal. And we don't need to dive too much into, that. I feel like that's, I feel like you grew out of that. It helped you become.
Oh yeah. Now I'm like, give me a cheeseburger and fries. Like
But I am curious what happened at Miss Teen USA and what was that like going up against the best of the best, quote unquote, in teenage land in the country. I mean, everybody's got their own representative from every state. I'm sure you've met a lot of friends that way as well.
Oh yeah. And actually it's funny, like Melanie Newman, she does MLB Network stuff. I competed with her at Miss Georgia Teen USA. She's great. But going to Miss USA or Teen USA, excuse me, it was awesome. It was in the Bahamas and, you're in high school and you're like, this is the coolest thing ever. And growing up, like I remember watching it every year, and just to be actually in that moment and being able to be a part of it was so surreal for me. All the girls, I still keep in touch with the girls. Actually, side note, funny story. One of Jake's teammates, they got traded to the Padres last season, and I'm sitting there at one of his games, and I'm sitting next to the guy's mother-in-law, and she's like, oh, who are you married to? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, you need to meet my daughter. Like, I think you guys would get along so well. And then she walks up and it's a girl. Oh, she was Miss Delaware Teen USA when I competed with her. And I hadn't seen her in like 15 years.
Wow.
𝗪cie Adams. And she's awesome. She was the sweetest girl ever. But it was just kind of a full circle moment. That's a little side note. But Teen USA, it was tough. And I know it has pageants. A lot of people wonder, is it catty? Are the girls that
I want to know. I'll do a whole episode just on pageants because I'd be very curious. But
yeah. I didn't have that experience at Teen USA. Everybody was super nice. And I think part of that is, girls are competitive, but I think there's something more innocent about being a teen and you're just there to have a good time. Now the Miss system, I think as adults, that's not all of it, but there can be a little cattiness when I competed at Miss USA.
Because you were also, for all of those that didn't know, Miss Georgia.
Yes. I got out of it for a little bit and then I got back into pageants. Yeah.
And then did you win Miss Georgia right away as well, Brooke?
No, I was, I think third or second runner up my first year when I got back into it. And then, I won my second year.
So cool. Miss Georgia Teen and Miss Georgia. I feel like that's so awesome. I feel like that's something I would put on every resume ever.
It was, and again, like I learned a lot of life skills and I give a lot of credit to the Miss USA system. I worked with an interview coach every single week. And I felt like that translated into when you're going and interviewing for a job. I would take public speaking courses, and because as Miss Georgia, you have to get up on stage in front of people, and you're in braids, you're working with different organizations, and you just have to be so well spoken. And so it builds confidence. And I think establishing in pageants, I feel like it instilled responsibilities and at a young age. I mean, I had a full-time job at the age of like 15, and I was working like adult hours, managing sports and also school and also this pageant. And so I think, that's why growing up, I feel like I've always had to keep myself busy in that way because I was instilled with that at such a young age.
Yeah, you're so used to working. Did you make money being a Miss Georgia teen or a Miss Georgia? Is there money that comes attached to that, or it's just a job?
You got like an allowance, but I mean, when you're thinking about the amount of money that goes into actually competing in the system, and you had sponsors, like I had sponsors for my dresses and things like that. But yeah, you didn't get paid. But I can only imagine what the girls are making now with social media. I mean, Instagram wasn't a thing when I was Miss Georgia teen. So now the influencer thing, I'm sure girls are making tons of money doing it.
Did you then cheer at Auburn or no?
So I tried out 1 year, and then I didn't make it, but
shame on Auburn.
It was different at Auburn. Like Georgia really focused on, the competitive side, and it's just a little different. I'll just leave it at that. It's a little different at Auburn. But it honestly worked out because I was super involved in the on-camera TV station there. So I just decided to go all in with that.
So you knew at that point when you were in Auburn that you wanted to be a sports broadcaster, or when did that kind of fly on your radar?
So after Teen USA, one of the judges actually worked for MTV. He owned an agency, but he had connections with MTV and stuff like that. Because at that point I thought, oh, maybe I would go in entertainment. So I would love to know what this audition was like, because I auditioned for MTV. They were revamping, I think, TRL or something like that. I was probably so bad. I flew up to this audition. I remember exactly what I was wearing. And I'm like, I'm going to be on TRL. No on-camera experience. They were probably please just leave. What are you doing? But that's where I kind of it kind of sparked my interest. I knew I always loved performing and, doing drama and stuff and pageants, but I didn't know how to kind of apply it. And so when I got to Auburn, I actually was the TV station was completely student ran. So I actually was a producer and a director of an entertainment show. And so, yeah, which was really cool. Don't get me wrong, it's really crappy quality. But it was awesome. I would put the shows together. I would come up with the content. I would edit it. I did all of it. We'll have to use it as B-roll or something because it's on YouTube somewhere.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we absolutely need to look it up. I was thinking we need to look up some of your old broadcasting clips as well. When did you transition, into being on camera from behind the camera?
So I would do a little on-camera thing, things here and there. But I really loved learning about how the show works. So I think I wanted to go full in on-camera towards probably the end of college. And then I would love to do stuff with the football team and things like that. I think it just casually transitioned to sports because it's really hard to get into the entertainment industry. Again, when we were in college, Instagram wasn't that big and there weren't as many digital outlets, right? To kind of, do the entertainment side. It was Entertainment Tonight and E! News, and that's it.
Right. The amount of times I applied to E! News while still in college, I would somehow have a job. I can actually picture the application. I can picture the website. I can picture where they list the apply now. I can picture all of that. And I probably applied every few months. I live in California now, guys, and I still have never been on E! News. So, yep, let's say that it's pretty difficult to get into entertainment.
Isn't that funny, though, when we're in college, we're so naive and we're yeah, I'm going to be the next Juliana Rancic. And
I really thought I was going to be. I truly did.
Listen, dream big. You got to dream big. But I thought right out of college, I was put me on the red carpet at the Oscars. I'm
I'm ready.
ready. Yeah.
So funny. Okay, wait. So what'd you do right out of college then? How'd you get your first
Okay.
job? Because you didn't jump. Remind me if I, well, let's just start there because
Yeah.
it wasn't right on camera right away.
No. So I actually I had just graduated and I was in like full panic. I remember I was back at my parents' house in Georgia and I was like, what am I going to do? And so I was applying to like local stations because usually at the time, like that's kind of the way to go. And I interviewed for a job up in, I don't even know where in Washington. And I was making like not even $30,000 a year. And so I had this offer on the table. Okay. And then I get a call from somebody I used to work with at Eagle Eye TV at Auburn. And they're like, hey, I work at ESPN. They're looking for an AD. Would you be interested? And I'm like, yeah, I would
Tell
love
people
that.
what an AD is.
So it's an associate director. So basically everything before the show, you are essentially in charge and you're preparing, whether it's graphics, whether it's video, just making sure when the director walks in the show, it's ready to go. And then you're kind of that second eyes and ears to the director during the show. So I didn't really know what I was getting into. I knew I still wanted to do on camera, but I was like, you know what, getting in at ESPN, working my way into, in front of the camera and just establishing those relationships. And it's in Charlotte, North Carolina, which it's close to home. It's a great city. I would rather move there, make a little bit more money than go to across the country and live in Washington where I would be like eating, I don't even know.
Welcome to the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with the Pacific Northwest because Dani,
it's a different lifestyle.
But when you're
there's a reason I don't live there.
Right. But when you are just graduating and you have been like, 2 hours away from home and, and now you're going to move across the country. Like, I didn't know if I was ready for that drastic of a change. And so anyways, I took this job at ESPN and yeah, I mean, I remember going into my interview and I told my future boss at the time, I didn't know if I was getting the job. I said, I have no problem starting behind the camera, but I eventually want to work my way, in front of the camera. And I said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. But this is my priority, but I still want to learn the ins and outs of like how a show works. And I got the job.
So cool. Okay. So once you did that, you're in North Carolina now. Then what happens? Where's your journey take you from there?
So I'm in North Carolina. I'm an AD on the 𝗶𝗏 show, and which that show was so fun.
So funny. It's such a funny show. Yeah, that's so weird that you were working there and I was working at Tennessee at the time watching the 𝗶𝗏 show all the time and he would come to Tennessee and it would be like this big massive deal and little did I know I could have just been like, hey, do you know Brooke that works on your show? But we wouldn't have known each other. It's so wild.
They would always pan to the control room. And so you probably would see me like poke my head out in the back, I'm like, oh, I was on TV today. But no, so I was there for the launch of 𝗪𝐶 Network. And so, I mean, it was awesome. And ESPNU was there as well. So I kind of did double duty. But that was when like Laura Rutledge, Marcus Spears, Maria Taylor, Tim Tebow, like, I mean, the on-camera talent when I was there, I don't think I mean, looking back, I'm like, that was a gold mine, right? Like they crushed it with the hires there. Cause some of them are the faces of ESPN now, but yeah, I mean, I learned a lot about myself and understanding how the show works. And I was, flexing different muscles that I hadn't never tried before, but, I still had that desire to be on camera. And so I would stay late after shows and I would the digital department had just launched. Like it wasn't even that big of a thing, which is kind of crazy to think about. And I might be showing my age a little bit. But I would just do anything I could just to, get on camera experience and just kind of, train those muscles as well.
Did they give you some opportunities to do that?
Yeah, they were, they're like, we're not going to pay you. But I remember it was me and Megan 𝗏𝗏. She is the reporter now for the Brooklyn Nets. And so we would just stay after and we would do digital stuff together. And, now looking back, it's a crazy experience.
So where'd you go from there after getting a little bit of on-camera experience
So
on digital?
I remember that they not dangle a carrot in front of me, but they were like, okay, maybe you could do this, like maybe you can do that. And so I was there for like 3.5 years. And so if it eventually got to a point where they're like, listen, you got to go somewhere else to come if you want to come back eventually. And I got it. And so I had a friend that actually, we had done pageants together. She was living in New York. She was actually in Tisch for acting. And she was like, Brooke, do you want to move to New York? Like, you can try doing it up here. And I said, why not? And 2 weeks later, I moved to New York. I drove my car all the way up there, loaded it up, and I moved in with my friend 𝗏𝗏, and we lived in like a 500, no, not even 500. It was probably like 400 square foot studio apartment for like 6 months because she had to finish out her lease. And that was probably the most humbling experience moving to New York. I feel like everybody at some age should live in a big city, whether it's LA, and I know you lived in LA, Dani, and you kind of still do, or New York or something like that, because I feel like that's when you learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, because you have to fend for yourself.
Yeah.
Did you do waitressing, or am I making that story up?
Yeah. So, again, I think, moving up there, being naive, like I'm moving to one of the biggest sports markets in like all of, the entire country. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm going to get on camera. No. Now I would do some freelance stuff, and I made great connections. I think New York is awesome for that. But, it got to a point where I had to really realize, I'm like, no, I got to grind. Right. And so, I had some fun, but then I was a hostess at a restaurant, and, I did that just to be able to pay rent. And yeah, I mean, it was an awesome experience. And then I just kept doing, small red carpet things, just trying to build my reel. And then I kept applying to different places. And that's when Detroit called.
So these freelance gigs, what are some of them? Like off the top of your head, you don't have to go too far in depth, but I'm just curious, like you're trying to make it work, you're trying to get on camera. What are some of these places and outlets that gave you a chance? Because maybe
it wasn't,
reach out.
I can't even remember what they were. Like they were so small. But I was just grasping at anything. I'm like, yes. And I think they were things that were like just launching, like digital stuff that like maybe didn't even pan out.
So your first big break is Detroit, and Detroit hired you to do what exactly? Digital reporting?
They hired me to be the digital reporter with an opportunity to possibly be on camera. So like to do the sideline for the Pistons, the Red Wings, and the Tigers.
Remind me of the channel's name because I'm drawing a blank.
Well, it was Bally Sport. Now it's FanDuel
Sports Network.
Detroit or whatever.
Bally Sports Detroit at the time.
It was Fox Sports Detroit at the time.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Even before that. Okay. Fox
Sports Detroit. And then we went through the Bally Sports Detroit transition. They've gone through a lot of transitions, obviously, within the RSNs. But yeah, so I got hired as that. And I think they were kind of looking for remember that was big when that was Katie Nolan's thing with the garbage time stuff. Like everybody was trying to find that sort of niche.
Yeah, Katie Nolan, for those people that don't know, she's still out there. She's got a new podcast, actually. Brooke and I just found it on Sirius. She's a bit of a comedic take on sports. She's very casual. I like her style. She's done a few things. They've put her in a few places here and there on different networks and stuff. But her vibe at the time, she kind of shook up traditional broadcasting for women our age at the time.
Yeah, she did. Honestly, she did a great job. And, the way she was interviewing players and she was putting a fun spin on it. And people had never seen that. So they were kind of looking for something like that and, trying to bring the personality into it, but also talk about sports. So, I started some different segments that I actually I'm still really proud of. I won some local Emmys for them. Anything Goes was this one segment that I started with 𝗪𝗪, which she's a stud. She's a producer there, a feature producer. And where we would just kind of have a fun spin on interviewing some of the players. And, I really just enjoyed that aspect and that producing side, but also on camera, just collaborating, so I did that. And then eventually I just kept grinding. I was doing some high school football stuff, some high school basketball stuff, just trying to find some opportunities. And, I was kind of the beat reporter behind Johnny Kane for the Pistons and the Tigers.
Wow, that's so cool. Wait, I want to know some of the fun things you did on Anything Goes. What does fun feature reporting mean? What was some of the strange things you found yourself doing?
So we would play some fun games. I would, This was back when like the Snapchat filter was out. This is just like the one thing I can think off the top of my head. First off, we would meet players at like random spots. And so I did one with like 𝗵𝗂𝗋 where that was big when like the Snapchat filter, where you would like make it, them look like a woman, or you could, the guys look like a woman. So I made him like guess which teammate that was. Or we would do like, I interviewed Ron Gardenhire when he was the manager, and in like a fill in the blank, and we had the board section. And so we would have a big fill in the blank, and then he would have to put the players like there that would fill in the blank, like which one's most likely to, I don't know, forget what time, like when a game is or something like that. Crazy. But it was so much fun. And then you would also like interview them and get to know them as well, like outside of baseball, outside of the game. So it was a lot of fun.
It's a fun way to break the ice when you're interviewing an athlete. I think that's what every reporter's tasked with doing, is trying to keep an athlete's attention. They go through so many interviews in their careers, and you want to stand out in a way that's not obnoxious. So if you're a young reporter, I wouldn't say like do the most outlandish thing on the planet, but something within reason, but also kind of shows your personality and can help them relax, because when they can relax, then they tend to tell you more and open up more.
For sure.
And that's sort of the strategy there, which is very fun. I actually think it's a testament to you also, because you just briefly mentioned how you worked under Johnny Kane, or whenever Johnny Kane, who is the current Detroit Pistons reporter still, whenever he maybe probably had a sick day, I'm imagining, or had a vacation day or something, you would fill in for him. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would fill in for him. And, they would block off a few games, here and there for me to do. But I got to give a lot of credit to Johnny, because I learned so much from him. He was like a mentor to me, because I think Johnny is so good at his crafts, because I feel like anybody can get up there and report, but I feel like you really master being an on-camera personality when you can bring your personality to your job, and you can kind of combine both. And Johnny has mastered it and done it in such a natural way. And so learning from him, it kind of gave me the confidence to like, you can still be yourself, right? And you can keep it simple. You don't have to like act like you're the smartest person in the room. You're just going out there and talking. And so, yeah, it took me a minute to kind of figure that out, but I give a lot of credit to Johnny. I learned a lot from him.
Well, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? You always want to be around people that can make you a bit smarter. But I just want to, Johnny was at Brooke's wedding. So it does show that he was obviously a good mentor and friend, which I think is really encouraging, especially if you're a young broadcaster listening to this and you want to do this someday, or you're thinking about it. Not everybody is catty. Not everyone is out to get you. Not everyone isn't willing to help. Maybe there's instances where there feels like there's some internal competition. It's nice to know that people can become friends and mentors through it all.
And I think it starts with respect. Like, I'm very much the people that came before me, like, you gaining as much knowledge, being a sponge, as much knowledge as you can from everyone. And like, Johnny's been in the business for years. Like, and even like I try to gain as much knowledge from you, like in my friends in the industry. But I think it just comes down to just respecting other people. That goes a long way. I think sometimes you get so caught up in like, getting that job, or like trying to, throw bows and like, knock people out of the way. And it's a very competitive industry. But I think people underestimate just like being a nice person and just respecting someone. That goes even longer.
Goes a long way. Don't be a diva to work with. That'd be one of my biggest pieces of advice in entering this business, because your reputation travels with you. I can't tell you the amount of times I've been told so-and-so from this major network was impossible to deal with. And that's coming from people that are just behind the camera, on the set, stage managers, makeup artists. Everybody remembers how you treat them. So that reputation does follow you. Even if it was 10, 15 years ago, they will still think the same thing and not consider you someone that's growing as an individual. They will still take you at face value from what they learned in your personality the first time they met you. So definitely always be kind to people. But then, Brooke, you had the craziest move, because I know how crazy it was for me. But for those that don't know, the move from whatever we were doing to Chicago happened so fast.
Oh, yeah.
So explain the transition of you're at Fox Sports Detroit, and then you get this job to host The Rally, this new TV show happening on Bally Sports Network, and it's a national show. It's going to be every single day, and you have to move to Chicago. How quickly did that happen for you?
like 2 weeks. It was crazy. I got the call, and what's funny, Dani, is I had always dreamt of doing a show kind of like Good Morning Football, and I always I would put it on my vision board. I was like, this would be such a fun job. And so when I got this call, like, talk about the power of manifestation, it because the rally was kind of based off of the format of Good Morning Football, and so I was just so excited. But at the same time, I had built a family in Detroit, and in this industry where it's like you have to get up and move so often, you just have to follow the job. And I finally felt like I was finding roots. Some of my best friends were there, and so I got this opportunity. I'm like, wait, do I want to leave? Like, I love it here. And but I'm so glad that I did, because the rally was an incredible show. But I remember I was trying to find movers, and I was packing up everything. I was selling my furniture. I just packed up the U-Haul, and I just I just went. I just moved here. And the day I was moving in was like the first day of rehearsals. And so you just have to you just got to find ways to make it work, right? Just take one thing at a time.
Sometimes you just say yes and figure out the logistics later. They don't
Yeah.
need to know all of the chaos that is surrounding you, having had said yes to a
Right.
job in a different city.
I signed my lease for my place without even looking at it. I was doing a Zoom tour, and I was like, "Yep, that sounds great. Cool, let's do it." And thankfully Kate was living here at the time, and so she was kind of like, "Well, look at these, few buildings." She kind of scouted it out for me, but Kate's one of my best friends and one of Dani's friends, for those who
Yeah,
don't know Kate, because I'm sure we've talked about her a lot on this podcast already.
exactly. We're
But
getting her to say go sports by listening to this podcast.
yeah. But getting back to the show, I mean, it was such an incredible concept. And so it was a national show. We were on all the RSNs. We would kind of lead into all the pre games. But when it comes to casting, the group, because you're kind of we were just thrown in. We had 3 days to rehearse, and they're like, all right, the show's going on. I had never hosted, I had filled in a little bit, but I didn't really have much hosting experience. And so then I'm coming to a national show, and I'm like, what am I doing? And so I think they did a great job. And Dani, you were there, you were with Live on the Line. I thought they did such a great job, because it's hard to find chemistry with people. And I thought we all just meshed really, really well.
We did. I agree. It was so much fun. I mean, you guys are going to be my friends forever based off
Yeah.
of that crew. And I've worked a lot of different places, and that crew of people will always be in my life. You guys will come to my wedding someday, God willing, and all of that. But I do really quickly, what is that like to go on national TV to host a show that is an hour
Hmm.
with not a script? There's no script. You're not really, you read the teleprompter from a hot second to start the show, but there's no script.
Yeah.
How do you prepare yourself for something like that? And how did you individually grow in that department?
It was hard, because as a reporter, you report the news, I was just trying to find my way in that regards. But then when you're hosting a show like The Rally, where they're encouraging you to have an opinion and not just host. And so I had to really find my voice and find a way to flex those muscles, and also sound like I know what I was talking about. I was just so embedded into the Detroit scene. Now I'm taking it, on a grand scale, and I'm talking NFL, NBA, MLB, college sports, NHL. It was a lot. And I think this is with any job. Things are going really, really fast, and it took a while for things to slow down for me. And so I had to live, breathe sports. When I woke up in the morning, I would turn on ESPN, and I would read so many articles, and I would have to take so many notes, and just so I can just be able to contribute to the conversation, honestly. And so doing it for an hour and a half, that's what it was at first.
That's right. It was an hour and a half. I forgot about
Yes.
that. 90 minutes is insane, people.
It was, no, 90 minutes is such a long show. And to do it every day, I don't think people understand, we didn't have a hiatus. We did an hour and a half show every single day without a break for, 2.5 years. It was a grind.
Totally.
It was a grind.
Totally. Did you just go back and watch yourself at times? Like, how did you, because sometimes it's really hard to improve on the fly. It's very difficult because you have people saying your show's great or good job, or your bosses aren't telling you
Yeah.
anything. And usually if they're not telling you something, it means that they're happy with you.
Right.
But
You're trying to read between the lines and you're like, wait, he didn't say anything to me. Is that a good sign? Is that a bad
that's
sign?
right. How do you improve
Yeah.
in your craft? Not so much your knowledge, but your craft on the fly like that when it's every single dang day.
It's hard. And so I was constantly asking for feedback. And I think you have to have tough skin in this industry. And I was just had to be very vulnerable. And, we had Lindsay and Eric there at the time in the beginning. And I was like, listen, please tell me what I can do better. And I think like I know that I'm new to this and I don't want to sit here and act like I know it all because I don't. And so if there is anything I never, and that's just my motto in general, I never want to be complacent. And in any sort of feedback, it's constructive feedback. And you just have to, take it on the chin and you have to learn from it and you have to move on. But that was my biggest thing was just like this. And I had to think like, this is the only way that I'm going to get better. I've got to take my pride, set my pride aside and, just soak up as much information as I can. And Dani, I'm telling you, there were days where I was like, I would finish a show and I'm like, I got to go take a lap. Like that was really bad,
It happens
Like,
though, because and I was describing this to Travis when we were in Miami. There was one hit that I did I really didn't like. And I was like, I sucked. Like, that's just the best way I can put it. He was like, we got to work on your negative self-talk. I was like, no. I don't think I'm bad at my job. I think that my at bat was a strikeout. I think that I missed my layup today. And that is going to sit with me for a second. I don't think I'm bad at shooting layups. I was actually, let's go with the 3-pointer. I don't think I'm bad at shooting. I just think that I missed that shot and it's going to sit with me for a second.
That's so funny that you think of it that way as like from an athlete mentality, because that's how I think of it too. There's so many different shows and you're not going to be perfect every single time. But I have always been so hard on myself. And it's so easy in this industry to after you do a show or you mess up and you're like, man, I suck. Like, why? What am I doing here? What should I even be in this industry? And I mean, Jake reminds me all the time too. He's like, why are you so hard on yourself? I'm like, I don't know. I just need to go take a little breather. Right.
And I'm
so
sure
I've had
you're
to
hard on yourself now because anytime you're in a new job, you really want to prove yourself. And I can tell just sometimes in your reactions when I ask you how things are going and you go, fine, it's a learning process. And I just know that that's probably you being extremely hard on yourself in your new role, because obviously this is what you got after the rally, which is so exciting and a lifelong dream of yours. And I'm sure you're just holding yourself to an absurd standard, which is just what makes you you.
Yeah, that's so funny. You know me so well. I dissect everything. And this is the thing. It's going to be an evolving thing as I continue in my career. And I remember, I think I heard Erin Andrews, who's she's like pro's pro, right? I think I actually heard her say, she still gets so nervous before she does her hits. And she was like, she even has self-doubt sometimes. And I'm like, okay, if she has self-doubt, then she's human. It's okay. I'm human. Right. But I think you have to be strong and you have to just have goldfish memory and just you know what, yesterday that happened and you got to move on and you have to have some grace. And that's what I'm learning. It's an ongoing process.
Give yourself some grace because as I always try and tell myself, my mess up was probably either A, not noticed by people. And if it was, short memory from all of them. And they just don't care about me as much as I think they do. So put yourself to have some humility and realize that no one cares like you care. So forget about it.
And don't you think when you take the focus off yourself, because I think as women in this industry, especially we worked so hard. I feel like we have to overcome some hurdles in order to just be taken seriously in this industry. And so when you have those mistakes, because you get so mad because you're like, man, I know I'm better than that. Right. But when I've taken the focus off myself and I'm like, how can I contribute to this broadcast today? And that's always my thought process. Don't get me wrong. I'm always trying to make the broadcast greatest. But when I remind myself of that, I'm just here to make the broadcast great. I'm here to tell the guys stories. It makes me settle in a little bbit more and it makes me more relaxed. And that's when I have my best games because I'm not so fixated on, oh my gosh, I said this word instead of that. And, it takes the focus off myself. I'm just trying to put together the best thing for this group.
I think it's always good to make sure that you don't you know internally that you don't need to prove yourself to anybody. You got here on your own accord and you've worked really hard for it. So don't prove to everybody that you know what you're talking about. We all know you know what you're talking about, which is why you got this job. But I do appreciate you walking us through your life story, your journey. I know we'll just continue to pick your brain and learn more about all the things that go into having your current role and what brought you here. But it is kind of nice to have like a basic path to understand where you started and where you're at.
Yes. Well, I'm excited to share my story a little bit, and I know it was a little bit of like this,
No, but it's fun.
that's how my brain works,
story.
people. But hopefully, I gave people a little bit more insight. And and I'm excited we're gonna dive into your history and your background, Dani, and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, we'll do that at a later date too. I feel like it's fun to just get to know people a little bit more. And I learned a lot about you today, and I've been friends with you for a few years now. So it's fun.
Well, mission accomplished. Well, we appreciate all you guys hanging out with us here today. Have a great week, and we will see you next week.